Hey everyone, and welcome to The Explainer. Look, if you're a leader, you know that uncertainty is basically part of the job description. So today, we're jumping into part one of Operational Risk Management by Jasmine Bohl and Jenna Blanche. They've built this incredible framework for getting a handle on exactly that, the unknown. Now, the book actually closes with this awesome quote from Henry Mintzberg, but we're kicking things off with it. Why? Because it just sets the stage so perfectly. Managing risk isn't just one thing. It's this meeting point of art, science, and craft. And today, we're really going to zero in on the science part, a structured way to approach a really complex craft. And that's the big question, isn't it? The book makes it crystal clear that risk is it's part of the deal. It's an unavoidable part of doing business. You can't just wish it away or eliminate it. You have to manage it. So here's our game plan for how we're going to break this all down. First, we'll talk about the basics of navigating risk. Then, we'll get into the core of the book, the four-step framework. After that, we need to get on the same page about what risk really means. Then, we'll see how this all becomes a cycle, and we'll wrap up with the single biggest takeaway you need to remember. Okay, first up, navigating operational risk. The most important thing to get your head around is that, risk is inevitable, but, and this is a big but, it is not unmanageable. A huge principle from the book is that every single organization is unique, right? Your strategy, your people, your market, it's all different. So it just makes sense that your system for managing risk has to be custom built too. There's no magic one-size-fits-all solution you can just buy off the shelf. So if there's no single solution, what do the authors give us? Well, they give us something way more valuable, a flexible framework. And that brings us right to the heart of their whole approach, this four-step framework. It's all about bringing some much-needed structure to a really complex topic. At its core, what we're looking at is a logical, structured process. It's designed to guide your decision-making step by step so you don't get totally overwhelmed by all the complexity and, end up making the wrong call. So what are the steps? The real genius here is how they build on each other. It's totally sequential. Think about it. You can't possibly define your objectives until you understand the overall strategy. And you can't identify the risks until you know what objectives they might threaten. And you definitely can't build the right controls until you've figured out what those risks are. It's like a funnel, starting with the big picture and getting more and more specific until you have concrete actions. Okay, but hang on a second. Step 3 says identify and assess the risks. How can you even begin to do that if your team doesn't have a solid, consistent definition of what risk even is? That brings us to our next section, defining risk. We've got to understand what we're really up against. The book gives us this really powerful three-part definition that's so much better than vague ideas like the chance of something bad happening. They define risk as a construct made up of three distinct, totally critical elements that you have to look at together. So the book argues risk has these three dimensions. Let's make it real. Imagine you're about to cross a busy street. Okay, there's the potential for loss. You could get hit by a car. Then there's the significance of that loss. It would be absolutely catastrophic. And finally, there's the uncertainty. You don't know for sure if or when a car might come speeding around the corner. A real risk assessment has to look at all three of those pieces together. And here's what's so important. The book defines loss as way more than just money. A loss can be a hit to your reputation, a critical process that fails, or even just a ton of time wasted because of some inefficiency. Taking this broader view is key because it helps you spot threats long before they show up on the balance sheet. This leads us to another really big insight about this whole framework. This is not a one-and-done checklist. It's a management cycle. This process is never, ever done. It's not a straight line from start to finish. It's a continuous loop. Truly effective risk management is a perpetual process. The world around you is always changing, right? So you have to constantly be circling back and asking, hey, has our strategy changed? Are our objectives the same? Are there new risks out there we haven't even thought about? The book says it directly. This isn't some yearly review you just check off a list. It is a dynamic process. A new competitor pops up. There's a big shift in technology. Your supply chain gets disrupted. Any of those are conditions that mean you have to reevaluate the whole cycle and do it promptly. All right, so we've gone through all this theory. What's the one thing you need to take away and actually put into practice? That brings us to our final and honestly most important section, your proactive takeaway. If you remember just one thing from all this, let it be this. The entire point of this framework is to help you shift from being reactive to being proactive.
It's the difference between cleaning up the mess after a pipe bursts and regularly checking your pipes for weak spots before they ever have a chance to burst.
So to put this into action, like right now, ask yourself this question. What is the single most critical process in my organization? And then thinking about potential, significance, and uncertainty. What are its biggest risks? Just answering that one question is your first real step on the path to proactive risk management.